should ultimately affirm, and I want us to listen to this carefully, that development of any kind without moral responsibility is irresponsibility that can lead to the destruction of our common humanity. This is not a political statement. This is a theological statement. Because we are prone in this country to reduce everything to what? To politics. I am making a theological what? Statement. That we should ultimately affirm that the development of any kind without moral what? Responsibility is what? Irresponsibility. That can lead to the destruction of our common humanity.
Recommendations of the Goil Fire Investigative Committee are seriously being implemented. Please also note, thanks to the Ministry of Petroleum, who conducted fire investigations and education programs to educate all of us, and especially motorists, on the use of filling stations. Also note, that which was standing in Sakaman for years, a situation that created flooding many times in that area. On the eve of June 3rd, we moved in and we pulled down that wall. And we did it in a fashion that it never affected the building that has been standing there, for which the AMA and Hydro was sued.
And on behalf of the government, never again will this disaster happen to this country. Next, a disaster befall on this country. Never again.
DNA samples has been taken. I remember the 1 week celebration. President Mahama said he has instructed for a DNA test should be done. And up to date, I can tell you, the samples have been taken, but as to the result, we don't know the report of it. And we have lived in this trauma for a whole year now, and no authorities, nothing has been said about it. The media, everyone, nothing has been said about it.
On this one-year anniversary of the June 3 flood and fire disaster, we are live here on Joint Caucus on the Joy News channel on Multi-TV, also live on Joy FM and on the internet at myjoyonline.com. My name is Jifa Bampo. Horrific scenes of what used to be the Goil filling station, where an explosion was triggered by the lightning of a cigarette butt thrown into the fuel-riddled water that caused an inferno of flames that engulfed people who had taken shelter at the station because of the heavy rain. A year on, the physical scars may have healed, but the emotional trauma remains. Lots of families have still not buried their loved ones. Others are still missing loved ones. But for many of the survivors, their lives are far from normal. Some say they need support to get their lives back together. So, have we learned anything a year on after June 3? Is Accra more resilient a year down the line? What is the state of NADMO a year on? Are they better placed to manage any disasters? All that tonight on Joint Caucus. And you can join us on the program by sending your thoughts to our social media platforms, facebook.com/joynewsontv. We also have a WhatsApp line, is 0560-800-000. I'll repeat that, facebook.com/joynewsontv. WhatsApp number is 560 800-000. Thank you very much for joining us. And joining us in the studio tonight is the former MP for Ododo-Diodo, Nibi Ayibonte, who is also a private legal practitioner. Later on, we'll be joined by the representative of the NDC. But Nibi Ayibonte, thank you very much for making time to join us on Joint Caucus. It's been a year on. May I ask where you were on June 3rd last year?
I think I was somewhere around Choco. I have a lot of friends around Choco Mamprobi where I normally play drafts. And I decided to leave for the house around 8:30. And I was then using a small car and a Toyota Matrix. And the volume of water at that Malam Junction was so bad. I had a law clerk then who lives in Bawi.
So you diverted?
They had to sleep in somebody's pickup till around 3 a.m. before he got home. It is something that should tickle our fight or to ensure safety in Ghana. I have been an engineer first profession, and the factory where I worked in, safety is very paramount. I'm talking about Unilever. I don't know of any company that considers safety as much as Unilever does. And they have a motto that if you think that safety is expensive, try an accident. It is when you get an accident that you realize that you will spend more than you would have spent if you had taken good care of safety. This particular event should result in a rethink of policy as to what do we do in such situations. What lessons have we learned?
What do you think we've learned a year down the line?
I think that we talk for a week,
and
we hold ceremonies, and that is the end. Everybody goes to sleep. I'll tell you, in 1995, 4th of July 1995, there was a major flooding in Accra. Terrible that Triton Equipment, they lost almost every document. Africa Motors, all that area. We came out with a lot of policies. I could then remember ministers of state standing in flats, trying to assure the people that we will resolve this problem. What have we done? Almost a decade later, the same thing happens, and we are still talking about it.
So in your view, looking at last year and this year, do you think Accra is more resilient?
Well, something seems to be done, but the question is it enough? I recall that some few months ago, there was some desilting going on in the Odo drain. For some political reasons, for whatever reason, the project was stopped because somebody linked to the president was being mentioned. So the project ended that way. Now, did they finish the work? If you go in there, you see cows. They're just walking in the drain. And the silting is so much that they could just climb on the sand and then jump out of the drain. It means that more work needs to be done. There's a lot of sand around. So anytime there's a slight rain, everything washes in there. If you want to see the worst results, get to the end of the Kole Lagoon, near the groove. It is so silted that I wonder what we need to do. Do we clear the groove from the place? Because tomorrow morning, plastic, people's fridges, gas cylinders, and all manner of things are in there. But our attitude's right.
We'll come to talk about our attitude, but for you, a year on, something has been done, but you feel it's not enough.
It is not enough.
All right.
It is not enough.
We'll come to talking about the environmental issues therein, and whether what the AME has been doing should be more collaborative, at least look beyond their jurisdiction as well. And we'll also talk a bit about our response to these kinds of disasters. Today has been a day of memorial for many. There have been church services in the morning. There's another church service this evening where survivors will be giving their testimony about how they emerged out of that inferno, and a year later they can talk about it despite the pains. But we've been speaking to some of them today.
me gyina so nsuo ne hwe nti nsuo ne hwe na mo gyina this side say ni say mo hwe mo chi say agane eba agane ba na me de mi dwane gya no no kan no wo nsuo nim nsuo mo na ejiri fire na fire service for the ahoma ebe twetwe ye free efio ti enkofo wu papa.
Okay, I got actually when I got a job at a place, the woman is she's called Mercy and she has opened Mercy Catering System. I used to go and help her and she would give me a day 5 cedi a day. But right now I've stopped. Why?
The money is not enough?
No, the money is not enough.
You just stopped? Or you had a fight with Mercy?
No, I didn't have
at all. Do you think what happened last year can happen again?
Yeah, we are afraid that it can happen again.
Why? What makes you feel so sure that it can happen again?
Because of how it rains and we heard that this house they will sold this place, so and maybe if they can help us look for another place to stay. I want to move from this place to go and stay at
another place.
I used to go up and down. You know, it's Accra. You can sit down and live. You see. So I used to do 1 2 1 2 for my whole living.
Where 1 2 1 2 means what? What did you used to do?
My business. You know, sometimes I used to find room for people.
You are an agent?
An agent.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Sometimes barbering. I say I was a barber during my youth. So these old men, all the time they do come again.
They come to you.
Yeah.
Since then, have you been comfortable? Is your life better now?
Oh no, things are very bad for us. So we are only waiting. Maybe something can happen. Yeah, we don't know.
But are you still waiting? Because it's been a year. The disaster has happened. One will have imagined that you will have moved on by now.
We can't. We depend upon God. So I say the change will come from God.
I didn't feel happy at all in my heart.
Did you lose a friend?
No, but I know one of my friends which like his face and his hand got pain. And I told him that so far as you are alive, you will give thanks to God. If you haven't dead.
Did you get injured that day? Did you get hurt or injured?
Oh no, I didn't get any. But it was the water. It was like I was like to die in the water. That's what made me afraid.
Okay. So from that time till now, how has your life been? Have you changed the way you do things? Where you go? When it's raining, what happens to you?
Yeah, it was something like that. If it's raining now, I again to be afraid of when it's raining, it will be flood again. So I don't think like if it's raining, I will not think that if it started raining, I'll find some place where the rain it will not worry me, so that I'll be safe on my life.
Well, when the thing happened, I was not having money to start. I've stayed in the house for almost, let's say, 6 or 7 months. And moreover, I'm afraid if something happened again, I don't want to sell in the night again. I want to do something daytime. When I finished selling Indomie, I went out. So I came home around 5 p.m. So I was going to market to buy Indomie, and the rain started small. I said, oh, this rain, let me sleep so that tomorrow I can go to morning devotion. Then we saw that the back of our house was burning. I said, what is happening? Before the filling station got blasted like bomb, my sister said, Joyce, all of us will die. By then she climbed the wall. I was in the water. The things we have fridge, like 4 fridges in the compound. I wanted to climb the wall, but everything blocked me. So I just asked for forgiveness of my sin. I know about me, I said, God, if I should die, I just take my soul. Every sin I've committed, you just forgive me. I asked for forgiveness of my sin. I was there. Something just said, okay, by means I will die. So let me just make it simple. Let me just go under the water and die. Something said no. But I don't know what carried me. What I realized is I was where my sister was. What I could remember was she was pulling me to climb the wall. I said, no, she should leave me. I will find. When I climbed the wall, I was naked. One man was coming from Adabrakai side and just come and stood beside me. I said, brother, can you please help me? He said, yes. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. So should I jump inside? Then I jump and he took me outside. I said, come and take my sister. So he came back and take my sister too. When I came out, I was naked. Those guys junkie, they were holding my buttocks, they were holding me. But that day, where my mind was, I just thank God that I survived.
Considering what happened here last year, what do you think has to change to avoid something like that repeating itself?
Every day the gutter is full. That's the
biggest problem?
Yes.
Okay. But who puts the filth in the gutter? It's all of you, isn't it?
Yes, it's true. But we have, like, what I think is, like, governments, like Saturdays like this, will organize something that the youth should clean the gutter. After finishing doing that, they should dash them something. The next day when they announce, they will come because of what they have received. Do you understand?
And you're welcome back if you're just joining us. It's Joint Caucus on the Joy News channel on Multi TV, also live on Joy 99.7 FM and on the internet at myjoyonline.com. And we've been joined by Kwame Agboja. He's the MP for Adaklu. He's also an architect. Earlier you heard a former member of parliament for Ododo Nibi Ayibonte, who is also a private legal practitioner. My name is Jifa Bampo. So we're talking about June 3, a year on. Is Accra resilient in order to withstand any potential flood or disaster? You're welcome, Mr. Agboja, and thank you for making time to join us. You heard some of the survivors there, heartbreaking stories about how they're struggling to get their life back together. Have we learned anything 1 year on?
Thank you very much, Jifa, and good evening to my friend, and then to your cherished viewers. Take the opportunity to say how we all are reflecting today based on what happened exactly a year ago, and we pray that those who survived would muster the courage to move on without having the, people call it post-traumatic effect, having stress on them. Well, Jifa, let's be clear here. I see the city authorities trying to do something. I can see that actively the Kole is being desilted almost on a daily basis. However, I see people throwing things back in there regularly as well. I mean, the tail end of the interview you just played, when your colleague asked a direct question, have you changed anything about yourselves, the way you behave since that time? Do you still throw things into the gutters? Yes, we do. But then we will expect government to organize the youth on Saturdays to clean the gutters, and they dash them something. I think this is where the problem starts from. When I wake up and dump solid waste in front of the gutter, in the gutter in front of my house, the chances are that my place will be flooded. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't assume that government is supposed to be like a big policeman standing in front of or behind everybody to say, don't do something. We have to take part of the responsibility, and government also do the bigger one, which is to make sure the drains work. I don't believe that there's any country or any city, except maybe those who live in Switzerland or somewhere, that will say for sure that we have taken all the steps that will say that our cities will never get flooded. The point is, Accra, the topography of Accra is such that parts of the city are in a depression. And depending on the volume of rain and how quickly the rain comes, may get flooded.
You talk about the fact that the city authorities seem to be doing something, and Mr. Ayibonte did mention that. However, there's a question about how collaborative it is. I live in Ga East, and certainly when there's heavy rain, we are up there, and the roads are nothing to talk about. So the water will find its way naturally and carry everything with it, and it will end up at Aveno through to the Circle Odo, through to the Kole Lagoon. So the question is it just about AMA doing something or a more collaborative effort? Because a lot of the debris, the dirt, the plastic waste is coming from upwards of the city.
Yes, I agree with you when you asked, are we doing it
in a collaborative way. I don't think that there's that master plan yet that I've seen that has addressed the issue about collecting all the wastewater and discharging into the sea. There are plans to do certain things, especially to a few kilometers before it gets into the sea, which are projects we know that are live projects that are going on. But I think that we can minimize the effects or the bad effects of the flood if we ourselves also take some of the things into consideration. And that is why I'm saying that if I get out of my house and dump solid waste into the drain in front of my house, chances are when it rains, we'll get flooded. I mean, I was watching BBC yesterday, Paris, parts of Germany are flooded. I mean, these are not cities that take, these things for granted, but depending on the situation, they can get flooded. But that doesn't mean that we should throw our hands in the air and say that we can't do anything about it. I think that the city authorities can continue and should quickly do the things that they've told us they're going to do. That is to expand some of the drains and add those drains that are missing, including those on which have been cut off because of encroachment and other things. We need to enforce those laws. And I would plead with you, the media, to let people understand that when you illegally go and build on a plot illegally, irrespective of how much money you spend, the issue about human face that we all employ when these things happen would cause us bigger problems. We all know that people, as we speak, people are doing things that are not right. But when the city authorities move in to do those things, then the news is no more about this bad guy who actually broke the law, who is making all of us suffer, but he spent so much money, he's a contemporary seller, and he's been able to build this house on the waterway. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah. I guess Mr. Kovandapoy made that point very clear. Yeah. He brought down Old Fadama. Yeah. He brought down some structures in the Sakaman area, and so there's little flooding. But Mr. Ibonte, the point about attitudes, which I know you were coming to before we went on the break, how do we break this cycle of bad attitude? Because, yes, it's true, government may not be a policeman, but if you've not put in place measures to stop people dumping on the floor, should I say, dustbins at the sides of the roads, making sure that people enforce these things, what's the way to go to dealing with attitudes?
Well,
in these very crowded urban communities.
My colleague Honorable Kwame Abuja has said something that if you drop solid waste in front of your house, your place will get flooded. In some parts of Accra, they call it fast track. When it starts raining, people pick their rubbish dumps and put them into the gutter.
So that it will go with the water.
So that it will go with the water, thinking that they have cleared their house of the rubbish. But then it goes in there, it gets the rain choked, and there's a backflow of water. And that can also lead to some of this thing. But you see, we have laws. I don't know of any country in West Africa which has more laws than Ghana. We have so many of them. I think that the Chief Justice even established a sanitation court where people could be punished. I mean, why would you, governments over the years, I recall, I don't know which particular regime, but receptacles were placed at vantage points. You know what was happening? People do all manner of things in black polythene bags and drop them in, forgetting that human beings would have to go and clear those things. So you see, once there's a law, the law is supposed to impose deterrent punishments on people. We should set examples. If we don't set examples, we will talk and talk and talk.
And spend money.
And spend money and nothing will happen. You see, I have a very radical approach.
I don't know, you are a member of parliament. How do you get to people and tell them not to do these things?
You see, I've read through several manifestos of various political parties when it comes to sanitation. Every party says that we will bring back the Sama. Is it working?
Well, the people are there, but they've not been employed.
Yeah, the people will go, he arrests somebody, and somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, and some tip here and there, and the matter dies a natural death. So, you see, these are some of the things that we need to do. I'm even thinking of a radical approach. I once had a discussion with one of the Reverend ministers who was preaching that every sanitation law is in the Bible. So after preaching, pick the criminal code, pick one section, that if you leave a carry-on with death, you'll be held liable. Everything is there. So pick the Bible, reflect it in the laws. All the laws that we have in Ghana, they are in the Bible. Thou shalt not kill.
So
telling
them in church is one way to stop.
It's another way of educating people that we cannot continue to do that, and then when there's a problem, you get your corolla. Before government brings an intervention, you would have died. You will spend your money. So people must be responsible for their personal safety. I am particularly worried with the number of filling stations that are springing up. There is one close to opposite Pambros. There is a house that has been sandwiched between two filling stations. The question is this: if there's disaster, where would this woman pass? There's one filling station, and the filling station is sharing a wall with the woman's house. Part of the tank is buried in the woman's house. Are we saying that the town and county planning people do not know? Is the assembly not aware? Fire service has given warnings. Work is progressing. So, I mean, there's a lot of impunity because people think that they are connected to the right places, and therefore, whatever they do, they'll get some protection. But if we allow the laws to work, let us get 1 or 2 prosecutions. Let us name and shame. Let us publish and see whether it will also not. I'm not saying it's going to totally solve the problem, but it's a major step. Let us do it because it's worrying, very, very worrying. You're going to build. You must go to the assembly. The town company will tell you that this is an earthquake zone, so your concrete mixture should be 3-1. Do we follow up? It's not enough to handcuff the metro engineer when Melcom collapses. That will not solve the problem. People must be responsible. People are paid as, how do you call them? What engineers? Those are the assemblies, Kwame. Yeah. How do you call them? Some
building inspectors.
Do they go to the site? They don't go there. So there are a lot of things that we need to put in place. We must invest in our safety. If we invest in our safety, we'll save enough for health. If we invest in our safety, we'll have a very good environment. And that will also promote so many things for this country.
All right, and it's still Joint Caucus on the Joy News channel, Multi TV. I'm sure some of you have some thoughts. You can send them to our social media platform, and it's facebook.com/Joy News on TV. Also, our WhatsApp line, 0560 800 000. It's 0560 800 000. Once we get those messages, we'll bring them to you. Well, the Accra Metropolitan Chief Executive today at the memorial service earlier in the morning talked about some of the things they've been doing for those who survived. Let's hear some of that, and then we'll come back to talking about what would have been the grand plan for dealing with the drains. We know that dredging is going on, but we've heard of this Conti project. Maybe hopefully Honorable Agbuja will be able to tell us a little more about where we are at on that.
Accra is standing better than the days of June 3rd. That the commitment to make sure that we remove all obstacles, the silt and dredge, the Kole and the Odo, to ensure water will flow whenever it rains in Accra, will continue and continue unabated. That is my assurance on behalf of government to the people of Accra, and indeed the whole nation, that the people's capital is ever safe than before. You are witnesses to the fact that last week we had 3 or 4 days of severe rains, and the city was able to withstand the circumstances and the aftermath of the rain. That is 40% of the work that needs to be done.
And you're welcome back. Let's take some messages, and then I'll come to Honorable Boja, who is with us here. This one says, I don't think that we've learned much more from what has happened last year. I don't think anyone has learned any lesson. It's just simply a short-term measure. We need a department of common sense. That's from Abusa Jackson. This one says, okay, I need my multi-TV settings. Okay, we'll need to direct you to the right place. This one says, oh, Mother Ghana weeps and bleeds. June 3rd and 4 have been faithful days, and the fire and flood burnt many to death. My heart is still torn apart. And that's from Kusi from Ejisu Besiase. This one from Glenn in Kaswa. My condolences to the bereaved families for their loss. We shouldn't only put our minds on the government. There also needs to be a mental revolution of Ghanaians so they do the right things. This one says the June 3rd disaster where about 153 people lost their lives under very bad condition and no official has been punished for that. The mayor is still opposed and we are commemorating what? Why should we do that? That's from Mamwa Elijah. And we'll take one more message. This one coming from Maxwell. It says, I believe we are the part of the problem. I think the main cause of this unfortunate disaster is the dumping of waste into the drain. So, Mr. Boja, I guess many agree that we are part of the problem. I guess the disagreement is how to deal with the problem that has emerged. The dredging is still going on. There are many who expected that it would have ended by now. We're told that work is just 40% complete. But if there are blocked gutters in other districts or municipalities and they're not being desilted, then the work being done at the Odo will come to nothing.
Well, I think the Odo is it's always the focus because it's the more or less yes where it ends up before it discharges into the sea. So it's more like trying to get the main receptacle cleared so other ones can discharge into. I agree with you. If you leave up the stream, I think nothing stops you from doing the right thing quickly as well before it gets to Odo. But you see, I think there's a fundamental problem as well. The last time I checked, we have just about 300 architects in the whole country. We probably have similar number of planners in the country. There are so many districts in the country who cannot afford to employ a qualified architect, an engineer, and a planner to do basic things that will be followed in terms of building regulation and other things. Sometimes when I try to, apply for building regulations and other things, and without any, being disrespectful for anybody, the person who is going to vet my drawing has no knowledge about that. It's just like, somebody who is a professional in something, and somebody who have no, so we have. So capacity. There are gaps in the assemblies to start with.
The capacity of some of the people there who are capable of enforcing the laws is non-existent because many of them, maybe you give them your layout and other thing, they look at it, but somebody has got to be able to look at generally the bigger picture to say that what you are going to put here, how would it work in terms of the global area in those. So I think that there's the need for the local government ministry and the professional bodies. I heard Ghana Institute of Architects coming up with a proposal that, if possible, they should be able to have an arrangement where some architects and engineers and planners can be attached to every district assembly. They don't have to be there every day, but periodically when major developments are supposed to take place, all these people sit at the same time to take a decision, instead of these things being done on ad hoc basis, because you did ask, are we doing these things in a joint way kind of a thing? Exactly. Yes. And I think, but Jifa, on the basis of, how do you call it, our own attitude as well, I wonder how many Ghanaians will sit in a trotro and see a colleague, maybe he is capable of not doing that. See a colleague drink water and throw it out and will not say that politely, my friend, this is not the way you should do it.
I'm sure if you do that, people will say you are too known, or you get the wrath of the person who did that. And we cannot develop this country or deal with this problem if people cannot have the courage to tell other people what you are doing is wrong, because they are afraid of being attacked or being called names and other things. Because these things are not, fortunately, plastic, menace is not one of the things God has, put on us. We have to do this by ourselves. So I'm thinking that whilst my brother says that the churches and everybody can help,
and
I
that
think
there should be sanctions. We must make examples of people.
But you see, it shouldn't be just one person being punished for it. I have seen people dressed up nicely in a tie and a suit in the morning, driving, and I've seen also roll their glasses down and throw it away. So it's not about illiterate alone. So if somebody who, well, by his dressing, I can imagine, are doing it. So all of us need to do, and I agree with him when he says that the church, the mosque, and everybody can have a crusade, and also the media. I get always worried when every morning the most important story on every channel is about politics. It's as if politics ends everything, can solve all the problems. I wonder how many times, I'm grateful that you brought politicians on this program, but we are not talking politics. We are talking about things that matter to the people. I wish this was something that could be repeated on other channels, not necessarily about this, but things that matter to the people. It's not always
the case that it is the politicians who make these decisions. They are the ones implementing the policy. They are seen as the direct head, and hence everyone will direct the issues politically. And it's because you always want to knock each other's heads, and that's how come maybe we are where we are at.
No, well, but the media can decide that, to hell with all of you, we are not interested in your political things. We will deal with what matters to us, like you are doing now.
Okay. Why? Someone asked a fundamental question. I need to get a answer out of. Why has no one been punished for the 153 souls?
Well,
for the disaster that we saw.
A very good question, but I wonder how we live in a country of rule of law. The way I understood it, there was flooding, and unfortunately, the flood waters went into some reservoirs that were supposed to be containing inflammable substances. It lifted the whole thing up, and from somewhere, I don't know, the flood went all the way to people's kitchens. So there was a possibility. In fact, today, I haven't seen anything that told me exactly where the fire came from.
We're told someone lit a cigarette butt. That's
exactly
what we're told.
Do we know the person was...
A name was mentioned, I just can't
Is the person
recall.
alive, or the person got burnt as well? We don't know those details. If we're just looking for how, who should have been punished, indeed, I think there should have been a law. Maybe there's a law in this country that if you go to a filling station, you can't smoke. Indeed, when I go to buy my fuel...
the cigarette butt was not lit at the filling station. It was lit in a home and blazed the trail
exactly. And
for
in that case, I wonder which law, under which law you're going to punish somebody. Assuming I sat in my home smoking, and before I realized it dropped, and then there's fuel there, and it led to a whole distance. I wonder under which law you're going to punish somebody for that.
Can you help us?
Well, you see, there's a certain principle in law we call omnia presumuntu, that a man intends the natural and probable consequences of his actions. If there's petrol and you light a cigarette, fire will certainly engulf you. So, depending on the circumstances, you can tell that this particular action must be punished. If it's a force majeure, a natural occurrence, there's nothing you can do about it. But if it's a man-made disaster, somebody must be punished. And I'll tell you, yesterday, let me just take some few seconds. I work for a legal NGO called Help Law. We help vulnerable people, those who cannot afford the service of lawyers and so on. And we're going to organize a function at Bukom Square. We're inviting the fire service, the police, the MPs, the parliamentary aspirants, the assemblymen, to tell the people some of the things that they do that can lead them to trouble. People who block roads, ambulances cannot pass, people are smoking anyhow. And when I mentioned it to the mayor, he said, Nibi, I will participate. Yesterday at the Little the ban on drumming and noise making, Latif Wonderboy said I would do it. All the assemblymen, we're writing to them. We want to organize such fora. And I think that it should be apolitical. People should be there to come and learn some of the things that they do that creates or conflicts them with the law. These days around some parts of Accra, people are even smoking marijuana as if it's cigarettes. Then when he gets a problem, then it calls the assemblyman or the MP. The MP has only 200,000 cedis, 200 Ghana cedis in his pocket. His wife wants 100 cedis. He cannot give it. Somebody goes to create a problem, and the MP will spend 160 Ghana cedis. Why? How can we treat ourselves like that? Kwame Boja, how do we do that?
Okay, but people were expecting that even if for nothing at all the flood occurred, we shouldn't have had flooding again. And so the chief executive should have been asked to go.
Let me tell you one thing. You know the name of Circle? Circle is far no far.
Far no far.
It's a flood-prone area. Parts of Mamprobi, flood-prone area.
And parts of Kanishia as
they are low-lying areas. And therefore, restrictive covenants must be enforced. That you cannot put such a building at this place.
These are old communities, old buildings, Mr. Ibonte. Most of those structures now we are putting up a huge flyover, which then depresses these old buildings, which cannot contain what will happen.
Kwame Abuja mentioned something about the soil structure. Most of the soil around the place is clay. You see some of the roads around TV Africa, you see the road are sheared because there's clay in there. No matter what you do with asphalt, it will shear. So there are certain measures that we must put in place that if you want to build in that area, certain things must be done. Mapobi Post Office, flood-prone area, it has to do a lot of excavation that champion. Boulders had to be immersed before the road could be constructed. So if the rules are there, let's talk about how expensive the project will be. You remember what in his absence, I said, if you say safety is expensive, try an accident. Then you will know.
Where are we on the Conti project, which many of us have heard about and are not exactly sure what it's supposed to do? It was meant to, I understand, be the master plan for the rebuilding of drains in Accra.
Yes, it's supposed to do the main drains in a significant way. I think that project is between the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing, the local government ministry, and AMA. The last time I checked, they were still working out on some details because based on the flooding itself, some lessons have been learned. So they needed to go and do few revisions to even the master plan itself, and then the financials will come in. It's quite a huge project. So
will it ever come on stream?
Well, we all pray and hope that it comes on stream. But my point is that even if Conti project is executed and we don't do the things that we have to do as individuals, the flooding may not stop. Some areas in Accra are basically in a depression. Naturally, we shouldn't be building there at all. But people have built there maybe before I was born. Yeah. Is it possible for us to go and tell them, demolish and then we compensate you? Maybe yes, maybe no, if we can afford it. So whilst we can understand that these are challenges, I am saying let everybody understand that it is not a matter of Conti project coming on alone, because like I said, Paris got flooded, a few German cities got flooded. Accra is in, the soil in Accra, we all know, can't take much water. So depending on the amount of rain and how quickly it comes, coupled with the choke drains, we might have a problem. We are lucky that the desilting has been going on for some time now. So far, so good.
Well, people are saying that there was some flooding recent, but because nobody died, we are thinking that everything is okay. And I guess that's the fundamental issue. But we'll come back a little more to that to talk a bit about plastics, because that seems to be the bane of the problems we're having environmentally. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.